Please welcome Jay Collier.
For years, I labored under the weight of what felt like a necessary shrinking of myself. But let me start at the beginning. My parents, like most, wanted us to have the best educational opportunities available. At the time, that meant moving to the best school district in the city. Though that meant that I wound up being one of only 6 Black students in my graduating class at a white flight high school where Confederate flags hung proudly from truck beds. To be fair, the teachers were good. The curriculum was solid and my GPA was great. But my self-esteem, touch and go. On the weekends, I had the relative safety of family and friends and community, but Monday through Friday, easy target. I stuck out like a sore thumb, and I did not want to stick out. That's the first messaging I remember, that life would be so much easier if I could just fit in. Nevertheless, several years later, I decided to go to law school and become one of the 2% of U.S. attorneys who are Black women. And boy, the messaging got louder there. A very clear representation of what a professional lawyer looked like, talks like, sounds like, dresses like, was developed and illuminated for me. And I tried to adapt quickly. The vocal cadence, the posture, the self-important tone, the black and gray suits, and the pantyhose, yikes. And then I graduated, and I passed the bar, and the messaging got really loud then, aggressive even. Now I'm going to interviews and hearing, you're just not a good fit. Performance appraisals and well-meaning colleagues just offering friendly advice to help me better fit in. I tried. That's where the pretzeling really started. I started trying to bend my personality. The car I drove, it has to be luxury. And then my hair, it has to be straight. Anything and everything to meet the rewarded archetype of worthiness in my profession. But it just wasn't working. All the time people said to me, you just don't look like a lawyer. You don't act like a lawyer. Don't get me wrong, I was winning my cases, baby. But I was starting to feel the emotional and physical drain of trying to wear that mask, because it only starts with that superficial stuff. Next thing you know, you're changing your name to the shorter, easier to pronounce version. And you're changing your sense of humor. You're laughing at things that typically you would find offensive. And not even a good laugh. You have to do the expensive golf course laugh. In fact, learn, or at least pretend to learn to golf. That always helps. At least buy a set of clubs. And if you're really ambitious, try to pretend to like an aged single malt Scotch neat. Yuck. But again, it wasn't working. And it's a slippery slope that comes at a cost, both literally and figuratively. And before you know it, you're sitting on the side of your bed in the morning, pre-exhausted for what you know is going to be an all-day long Broadway-level performance that has absolutely nothing to do with being good at your job. So, what was I to do? Because in your personal life, also, social media and public, you find yourself masquerading there as well. See, you thought you were wearing the mask, but now, baby, the mask is wearing you. I don't think this is about being a victim. This is not a victim song. In fact, I don't even think my situation was particularly unique. I wanted to wear the mask. I wanted to fit in. And I believe every single one of you knows exactly what it feels like to try to contort yourself into the person you think someone else wants you to be. Aside from birth and death, learned assimilation is probably one of the most common human experiences. For some, it's just about trying to stay under the radar. It's about survival. But for myself and so many others, it's about desperately seeking permission from the gatekeepers to seem successful. Let me give you some data. In 2013, world-renowned legal scholar, former Yale and now NYU law professor Kenji Yoshino published a study on covering or masking at work. And what he revealed in his study is that some 61% of workers reported having to bend themselves out of shape to fit in at work. Those contortions included everything from trying not to associate with other people of the same demographic, to changing their voice, to changing their appearance, to changing their interests. As you might expect, the percentages were really high among Black people, women, LGBTQ+, Hispanics, and Asians. But 45% of white, heterosexual males also reported having to bend themselves out of shape to fit in at work. What does that tell you? It tells me that very few people believe they can find success as themselves. And that's what makes it so inspiring, so impactful when you find someone who does it. Okay, so why am I even telling you all of this? Why do you care? Well, one, we deserve success. You deserve success as yourself on your own terms. You deserve a success that you can connect to. You deserve to feel that the accolades are for you, not for the character that you're playing. Two, if you are one of the lucky ones, one of those people who learn to live out loud and find success as your true self, well, then you're the one in the room that everyone is looking to as an example. You get to set the culture for what it's like on your teams and in your departments and in your organizations. And that means you have an awesome paradigm-shifting opportunity, responsibility, to create spaces where people can come and just do good work without having to wear the mask to do it. You can be for someone else what you wish someone had been for you. And I'm not telling you it's easy, but it can be done. For me, taking off the mask started simply. I just returned to the things that I loved, that I had abandoned in my pursuit of success. I began creative writing again. And that simple act of creating something beautiful where there had been nothing restored my confidence, and it repatriated my self-esteem back to myself. I had outsourced it to industry awards and accolades, all ginned up from LinkedIn posts that start with, "I am so humbled and honored to have been recognized." You know the posts. You know. But through creative writing, I found again my confidence in my own creative genius, and that showed up in the way I showed up at work. I began speaking up more for myself and others. I encouraged my team members to prioritize their mental health. I started canceling or rescheduling unnecessary meetings so I could be present in the life of my family instead of being worried that I didn't seem committed. Those black and gray suits became brightly colored and boldly patterned. I evicted pantyhose from my life altogether. Yeah? And in doing so, I realized that I did not need that mask anymore. Now, again, you can have that same freedom. One of the things I discovered is that I had work friends all of a sudden, not the fake networky kind, real work friends who would come in my office, close the door, take off their own mask, relax their English, even just for those few minutes that we were behind closed doors, because the authenticity in me called to the authenticity in them. Interestingly enough, in my personal life, my relationships got deeper and more genuine because I could be the same me everywhere. I didn't have to switch masks based on who was in the room and who I was trying to impress. You deserve that same freedom. Okay, so there's no written formula to how to live life true to yourself, but I can give you 3 tips to get started back on that path. Number 1, if there's something that you absolutely love to do and then you decided to stop because it seems silly at this big age, do it again. I don't care if it's singing or dancing or improv or painting or flag football. If it brings you joy, do it. Number 2, on Monday morning, before you reach for that drab blazer or your flat iron or, God forbid, pantyhose, reach for the clothing that makes you feel the most powerful, that makes you feel like yourself, and wear that. Number 3, if you have a beautiful traditional name that was given to you by your family and you have remixed it and chopped it and shortened it so it's easy for other people to say, reclaim your name. That is your name and they can learn to pronounce it. So ultimately for me, removing my mask led me to change professions altogether into something that could help others do the same. But it doesn't have to be that for you. Because removing your mask is not about changing your job to fit your personality. Removing the mask is about refusing to change the core of who you are just to fit in at a job. And it's because you, in all of your intellect and creativity, and all of your quirky and unique glory, you are the value. And that is enough. Thank you.
That was Jay Collier.